Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant, pure Michigan Monday to you, live from the parlor of Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. And those of you watching on Fox 47, you get an eyeful from time to time about how beautiful it is right here. There is still time for you this summer to reserve a room, spend a weekend at Grand Hotel. It's 1-800-33-GRAND or grandhotel.com. Politics is our family business on this program. Typically, we broadcast from a couple blocks from the Capitol, right there in Lansing, in our American Metal Roofs Gillespie Group Stadium District building studio. But right now, we are here, and Saul Lanusis, who has spent a lot of time here at Grand Hotel, too, whether it was for Republican leadership conferences or the policy conference, is on the other end of our line right now. He's the former chair of the Michigan Republican Party. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Well, after months and months and months of consideration, you have decided not to run against Senator Debbie Stabenow, or at least run for the nomination, Republican nomination for U.S. Senate in 2012. Why not?
Well, I think, look, I think it was a tremendous opportunity, and it still is. This is going to be a very competitive year for Republicans. But I just, personally was not in a position to do this from a financial standpoint. Unfortunately, I am one of those kind of working class folks who has a mortgage, car payment, kids, school, et cetera. So, I was very comfortable with the respects of the Republicans. We're going to have the support out there for whoever our nominee is. I've met with the National Committee folks. I've met with the Senatorial Committee folks. I've talked to donors around the state. And I think you can raise the money to put on this race. I think people see this as a very important race. But I think there are other people who probably are going to be in stronger shape, because you really do have to take, the next year off and do this on a full-time basis. And I just wasn't in the personal situation to do that.
Do you think you have to be a self-funder to win a Senate seat against an incumbent like Debbie Stabenow?
No, you don't. I think the money is out there to be raised, but you do have to be in the personal financial situation to be able to take the time off of whatever your job is. And that's the issue. I think that a lot of people don't realize it's still, in effect, it becomes your full-time job with no pay. I know there have been a couple candidates around the country who've actually, taken money out of their campaign committee to pay themselves. But I personally don't like that idea or that concept. I think people give money to win an election, and when they donate for a campaign like this, it's important that you're a good steward of the money and you use it right. So I think that what you do have to do is be in the personal financial situation to handle it. But beyond that, look, I think the people are out there. I mean, I've talked to hundreds, if not over 1,000 activists and donors around the state, and I can tell you Republicans think we have a great opportunity. They're very excited. The party is committed. The donors are committed. The activists are committed. So I think we will have a strong nominee, and I think someone's going to come out that I've talked to several folks who I think are in better shape than I am to do this thing, and they're very seriously exploring it. And I think if we put all this together, I think we have a one heck of a race here coming up next year.
With all due respect, there have been some very big names who have decided not to run for Senate. And how can you be excited when Pete Hoekstra and Terry Lynn Land and Saul Lanusis, and there is no name candidate right now with any kind of name recognition, unless there's somebody coming out that we don't know about? Maybe you do.
Well, I don't think you need to have the name recognition to run. Name recognition is just one factor in all the factors that make up a race. It's important. It helps starting out when you have a name, because obviously instantaneously people recognize that you are a political figure. But the reality is, as soon as the race starts, as soon as we start talking about the issues, you get coverage very quickly. You very quickly develop that name ID, and people realize who's out there running. This is going to be about the issues. This is going to be, I've written several times in my post, I said, you need somebody who can A, raise the money, B, put together a statewide campaign, and then C, articulate the message. If you have someone who can do all three of those things, I think this is going to be a serious race, because the name ID will come, the recognition will come by nature of running a campaign, traveling around the state, doing the interviews, debating the issues, and getting the press that you would normally get in a competitive Senate race.
You would agree, though, wouldn't you, that this is not the ideal situation to be here in middle June without a big-name candidate?
No, not really.
Really?
If you take a look at historically in Michigan, almost every statewide race every 2 years that emerges comes out through the Mackinac Conference, our Republican Mackinac Conference in September. So whether it's a race for governor, whether it's a race for the United States Senate, when we come into our Mackinac Island convention in September, you normally have the names of the key players who are running. I mean, sometimes somebody comes in after that. That would be unusual to have somebody not in the race by the end of September. But right now we still have 5 or 6 people out there who are seriously looking at it. There's a couple who've actually announced and are, starting to make the rounds and talk to people that are interested in running. So it is pretty early. This is more than a year ahead of time, and people just aren't ready for retail politics at this stage of the game. So I think it's not too early for the exploratory process. It's not too early to have these early discussions. But the idea that we need a campaign tomorrow is just isn't true, and it doesn't happen traditionally in Michigan politics.
So we're sitting right now in the parlor at Grand Hotel, and come September, there will be Mitt Romney on down running around this place, the presidential candidates. Who is the name that we haven't heard yet that will be thinking or already in the race for U.S. Senate for the Republicans?
Well, I think there's a couple leading candidates or leading potential candidates that are out there. I mean, obviously, at the last Mackinac conference, the Mackinac Chamber conference here, I think one of the hot names out there was Frank Beckman, who is obviously a talk show host and the voice of Michigan football, a conservative talk show host who's been very, he's got a big following, is very well respected out there. So I think Frank would be a possibility. I know a lot of people have talked to him, and he has said he hasn't even thought about it yet, but I think
not
that
true. I can tell you that for sure. He's definitely thought about it. Frank has definitely thought about it.
I mean, formally said that. I think he's very intrigued, and I think he's getting a lot of encouragement from a lot of different people. Clark Durant, who ran for the Senate against Bill Schuette in a primary some 10, 15 years ago, is attorney, one of the leaders in the Cornerstone Foundation schools in Detroit that is turning around the inner city schools. I mean, this is a guy who's got a tremendous background and following, is a great fundraiser, very articulate, very dynamic guy. So I think he's another one that people are talking about right now. Last 2 weeks, I've probably received more phone calls about Clark Durant than I have about anybody else. John McCullough, who's a CPA attorney from Oakland County. He understands the political process. He serves the Oakland County government. This is a guy who knows, as we're talking about budget deficits and balancing the budget and taking care of these unprecedented debt that we're passing on to our children and grandchildren. Now, he's another one who's out there. Rob Steele is still talking about it, who ran against John Dingell. Yeah. He put on a very impressive race. He's a surgeon from the Metro Detroit area, has a big following around the state. So, I mean, and then there's Randy Heckman and Kopensky. And so there's a couple people who are already out there, too. So I think we're just, we just have to let the process work its way out. I think a lot of people don't realize what a difficult job this is with respect to taking on a race like this.
Well, you know exactly how difficult it is, and that's why you've decided to bow out. Next time we talk, we'll find out what's next for Saul Anusis, the former party chair not running for U.S. Senate.